Chuckle back again, another batch. I'll be honest, this record attempt starting to become a little daunting. You see the number 1,132 films watched in 1 year, and you think, that's not that much. 3 movies a day, I could do that easy. But then you get into it, and I've been going almost 4.5 months now. Boy, starts to become cumbersome. Starts to drag. But I'm not giving up. Still looking up. Might not get to 1,200. Might take a little over a year to get to 1,200, but I'm definitely thinking I could still beat the record. But boy, it's going to be tough. It's a long stretch. But I watched 3 movies today, and they were very good. They were kind of random Netflix movies I just happened to click play on, and hey, they worked out. So, good movies will keep me going. I don't have a lack of films. I started with about 550 on the Netflix DVD queue, and then another couple hundred on the Amazon and Netflix streaming services. And only about 100 down total from what I started with, so that means I'm adding a lot of movies and finding a lot of random new movies to watch. So, just got to keep watching. But let's get going with the list. Oh, first a correction. In the last show, I didn't say the name of a movie. Number 309 was a Sam Worthington movie called A Hunter's Prayer. So now you know what it was. But let's start with the new batch, number 330, Jumunji. Welcome to the Jungle. I saw when they remade Jumunji, I figured this has to be better than the original. There's no way on heaven it could be worse, and it was very good. The Rock was entertaining as per usual. Jack Black, I think, kind of stole the show. But still a fun film. I hope they do more, because I will watch. 331, Rememory. Another Anton Yelchin movie, I know. It kind of reminded me of The Final Cut with Robin Williams. It's about this guy that can dig into your memory and physically record memories and then play them back, like at your funeral or whatever, or on DVD or wherever you want to put them on. And I know it's science fiction, but Peter Dinklage, from Game of Thrones befriends the wife of the creator of this thing. This operation is whatever, and because he had just been found dead, and it was his wake, I guess. Turns out Dinklage had a connection with the guy. And but then Anton Yelchin, his part in the movie was he was the accused killer, and he also was kind of an experimental guinea pig in all this. So that's kind of his link. But yeah, as you can guess, it was a little far-fetched, a little much, a little over the top. But I got through it. So whatever that means. 332, Driftless Area. Another Anton Yelchin movie. Whatever you do, do not watch the trailer for this, because if you watch the film, do not watch the trailer first, because it's completely different. I thought it was a separate movie. I thought I messed up. I watched something else. I didn't watch that, because I watched the trailer afterwards. Don't ask me why. I just did. But this guy befriends this chick, and the chick is a ghost, I guess. She's not alive. But she convinces Yelchin to help her bring her killers to justice, so he kind of has to go infiltrate this group. the trailer makes it out to be this kind of a light-hearted little satire of a little romantic, and the actual movie seemed dark, seemed kind of sinister. So yeah, I was like, who's editing this? But it wasn't a bad movie. Yeah, it was fine. 333, Home Invasion. There's a couple of films with that title. This was the 2011 version. This had Lifetime movie written all over it, just in the production and the actors and so on and so forth. This chick and her boyfriend and this other dude attempt to rob this house, and the chick's boyfriend gets shot and dies, and then the chick and the other dude take off, and the chick then leaves the other dude for dead. And then the chick starts to stalk the family that killed her boyfriend. So she kind of befriends the wife, becomes buddies, and before she tries to backstab her. And then of course there was always the other dude that was left for dead, who isn't dead, of course, but he tries to sneak his way into the situation too. Pure Lifetime movie. If you watch enough Lifetime movies, if you've seen more than 5 in your lifetime, you'll probably figure out where this movie's gonna go. But it was okay. 334, Creature from Black Lake. This is a Sasquatch movie from the 70s. I thought, oh boy, Sasquatch 70s, this movie is going to be pure B-movie filler filth. And it was actually really good. I was surprised and entertained. It's kind of like a combination of it's like Deliverance meets Bigfoot. These two students from this university got a hot Bigfoot tip, so they go out to out in the boonies to go hunting for Sasquatch in this locale that he was seen at, and they kind of have to interact with the townspeople. And the search begins from there for me. But yeah, it was really good. 335, Killing Ground. Okay, this movie kind of jumps around a lot, but it's after about an hour in, it makes sense, and it's just, you can piece it together. This couple finds this baby, well, I guess he's a toddler, alone when they go camping out in the middle of nowhere, and looks like he's been left for dead, even though he's not dead. But then these two guys approach them, and they seem like they want to help, but they don't help. And then then that's where the jumping around kind of comes into play, because the other guys have a backstory too, and it kind of all comes together. But interesting little film on Netflix now. 336, Mune, the Guardian of the Moon. The first Moon in that title is spelled M-U-N-E. It's a pure Pixar movie. How do I describe this film? There's like a Guardian of the Night, and then there's a Guardian of the Day. And they're both old and we have to retire, so they find new Guardians. And the leader, the suspected person to take over the leader of the night, does not get chosen, and this unlikely character gets put in his place and kind of fumbles around. But as Pixar movies are, you can kind of figure it out. But it was fine. 337, River. This plot's been done 1,000 times. This doctor over in wherever, like a Doctor Without Borders, he's in Ethiopia or something, or wherever, and he gets falsely accused of rape, because he was trying to help this girl that was raped, but she woke up and saw him and accused him, so of course. And he just says, I'm not facing the consequences, screw this, I'm innocent, so he decides to run. So, I don't know why this movie's called The River. He only spends some of the time going up the river. He hides in boats and jumps from boats to fishermen's boats and yada yada. And he hides in town and he hides in cars and he's just like a fugitive. But yeah, it was yeah, like a fugitive movie. 338 Blood Simple. This was interesting. It's from 1984. Frances McDormand, I guess it's German, in her film debut with Dan Hedaya and Emmett Walsh. If you should look up those guys. Those guys have been in a billion movies and they're always brilliant. And they're both still alive today and both still active. Hedaya is in his 70s and Walsh is in his 80s. But yeah, it's amazing. Joel Coen directed this. He, as you should know, he did Fargo and Big Lebowski and No Country for Old Men, and one of my all-time favorite films, Inside Llewyn Davis. But this movie, this guy and his girlfriend have a shaky relationship with Dan Hedaya, who's kind of their boss, and he kind of thinks that he owns them, so he pays to have them killed, but he ends up getting killed by the hitman he hired to do it. So then the hitman goes to kill the couple, just to kind of loosen up loose ends, I guess, you know? Or to tighten up loose ends, excuse me. But it became really in-depth and interesting. Blood Simple, very good movie. 339, not so good movie. The Room. It's a fantastically well-known film for being one of the worst films of all time. You know, I can see what they were going for when they were putting this film together. But the main guy who slips my mind, he just has trouble putting words together. He just has no flow. Plus, it was low budget. But this was later made into not this film, but the main actor in this. It was made into a movie called The Disaster Artist, starring James Franco, which I'll be watching probably in the next batch, hopefully, which covers this guy's rise to fame, or almost rise to fame, I guess. But yeah, this film was I can't recommend it, let's just say. 340, The Funhouse. This was one of the better reviewed horror films of the 80s. So I had to watch. Plus, I haven't seen it before. It's early 80s. This group of 4 teenagers, of course, they figure it'll be fun to go sleep overnight in the little Carney Funhouse. And while they're in there, they witness a murder. The freak that runs the funhouse ends up killing this woman, and then the carnival barker, I guess, tries to help the freak cover it up, and then they discover that they're being watched, and then they start chasing the kids around the funhouse. And the funhouse looks on the outside looks like it's no bigger than a standard house, but somehow there's endless hallways and rooms in this place. But still a fun 80s horror film. Another 80s horror film, 341, Phantasm II. I just watched the first Phantasm probably 2 years ago, maybe. So I wanted to see more. So I watched part 2. It was a bigger budget, and that helped, but everything else was just meh. These guys, loaded themselves to the T with guns and bombs and everything you could think of. It's like they were fighting a small war against the caretaker, or whatever it is, the tall man, I guess they called him, and his little dwarfish minions. But yeah, I'll probably watch 3 because I'm a sucker. But 2 was just okay. 342, Maze Runner: The Death Cure. This obviously just been released on DVD. And I've seen the first 2. First one was really good. Second one was eh. Third was pretty good. It was a little long, a little extensive. Could have used a couple edits, but it was fine. I hate trying to say too much without saying enough, but I don't want to say too much to give it away. But certain people that die in this I didn't think would die, which kind of surprised me. But everything, and it was good to see Barry Pepper. Barry Pepper doesn't seem to age. But overall, it was fine. It was a good trilogy. I'll say that. 343, The Edge of Winter. This was fascinating. This father takes his 2 sons out, which he has partial custody of, out to the middle of nowhere during the winter. And the car goes off the side of the road, and they go out looking, and they find this cabin. Then after a while, these 2 other hunters show up randomly, and it's like, hey, we're staying here too. The dad's like, okay. Then he starts to slowly kind of creep into craziness. We're talking like The Shining level craziness. And then the kids are like, we see what's going on here and we got to get out. But yeah, very interesting film. The ending was just okay, but other than that, yeah, good film. 344, Night Moves. This was 1975 Gene Hackman and a very, very young James Woods and a very, very young Melanie Griffiths. Hackman is a private investigator paid to get the Melanie Griffiths character back to her mother, but she doesn't want to go, so he has to pretty much drag her kicking and screaming. The little film synopsis I saw in this says there's a very dramatic conclusion to this film, and they were not kidding. I didn't know what to expect, but it was not a joke. The ending is nuts. Yes. But, yep, good film. Night Moves. 395. Laggies. Keira Knightley stars in this, and Sam Rockwell. Keira Knightley gets proposed to and doesn't want to be proposed to, so she hides from her would-be husband, I guess, for her fiance, and decides to lay low and hangs out with this teenage girl and her teenage friends. And then Sam Rockwell, who's the father of one of the teenage friends, is like, what is this? Like, what are you doing? And of course they become friends, and then it becomes more, and it goes from there. A little rom-com. Predictable, but it does have its moments. I won't bury it. 346. Imperium. Little tiny 90-pound Daniel Radcliffe works for the FBI, and he decides to go undercover as a white supremacist to bring down this terrorist group that was going to blow up something or other. And he did a really good job in this, even though he's so tiny. But this would have been a really good movie if I hadn't just watched The Infiltrator. So it just becomes a good movie, because that movie was much more better. 347. Another Kind. I almost skipped this when I watched the first 5 minutes. I said, this looks like B-level porn. I'm not watching this. But it ended up being a decent film. These 4 people are going out on a camping in the winter. That plot sounds familiar in this episode. I know, but that's what they do. And then some of their stuff ends up going missing, and they're getting visited by strange lights at night, and you can't quite put your finger on what's going on here, but it kept it going, and it kept getting more and more interesting. And by the end, he's like, "Oh, that's what's happening," and then it comes together and makes sense. But for being low budget with 4 unknowns, it was really good. Bravo. 348, The Flatwoods Monster. This was another Seth Breedlove documentary. I'm pretty sure I've done one other one a couple hundred films ago. But he's done Bigfoot documentaries and Mothman documentaries, and this is his documentary on the Flatwoods Monster. It was basically an unidentified object crashed into the mountains near this little city of Flatwoods, and this group of people went to go see what it was, and it was back in the 50s, I think, 50s or 60s. And some of the witnesses, there's still a couple of witnesses that are still alive that they interviewed for this, and they described what they saw. They don't know what they saw, but they said they saw something. But, and kind of how the legend, basically thought they saw an alien, a giant robotic alien, and how people are still scared to this day to go out in the forest of the Flatwoods area because they think they'll encounter the Flatwoods Monster. But yeah, it was an interesting little documentary. 349 PU 239. This was an HBO movie. It was Oscar Isaacs from the recent Star Wars films and Inside Llewyn Davis, who I mentioned earlier. He was co-starred in this, but it's about this Russian man who working at this power plant, and there was a leak, and he gets exposed, and he's basically gonna die, and the power plant doesn't really want to do much for him except say, hey, it's your fault. Sorry about your luck. He says, screw that. I was screwed over. It wasn't my fault. There was faulty things going on, and so that's his quest as he's falling apart physically. But interesting film. Oh yeah, it's fine. 350. The One I Love. Mark Duplass and his wife. The film starts with him and his wife in counseling, and the counselor is played by Ted Danson, and he says you need to go to this couples retreat to figure things out because it's 100%. So they say okay, and they go to this retreat, and it's just them, and there's like a big house, and there's a little guest house, and they realize that they're not exactly alone. There's other versions of themselves at this place, and they're interacting with other versions of themselves. Mark Duplass, what I'll give him credit for is he chooses interesting roles, and he took a gamble here. I don't know if this movie made a penny, but it was interesting. 351, Like Crazy. Another Anton Yelchin film. This is a long-distance love affair movie. He's dating this chick from London, and eventually she has to go back to London. But she wants to come back to America, but her visa, for whatever reason, is corrupted or expired or whatever, and she can't. So he ventures out there a few times, but eventually it doesn't work. So he says, well, let's get married. And so they get married over in London, but again, her visa problems won't let her come back. And eventually Yelchin gets a little, tired of this, and he eventually comes back to America alone. And it go, it's not a standard romance movie, but you can, it is what it is. 352. This was first of the 3 movies I watched today that I thought were kind of fun. 352 is You Can Count on Me. Mark Ruffalo, who is now playing the Hulk. This film's from 2000, the year 2000. He has to move back in with his sister, and she has a small son, played by Rory Culkin in his first movie, Macaulay Culkin's little brother. And Mark Ruffalo forms a bond with the kid, and they kind of get into trouble. They go out playing pool late at night and crazy stuff. And the mom's ultra conservative and trying to raise her boy properly. And then she ends up having an affair with her boss, played by Matthew Broderick, because who can resist that? But yeah, it's a fun little film. 353. Tremors. A Cold Day in Hell. Michael Gross from the old show Family Ties stars again. He's been in every one of these Tremors movies, and now apparently Jamie Kennedy is his heir apparent. You get word that there's graboids up in Antarctica, so he has to go, and he has to go fight them. So he goes up to Antarctica and fights some more graboids. That's sounds like cheesy level, but it is cheesy, and it's corny, but it's kind of like a shark tornado. It's silly fun. If you can just let your guard down and enjoy it for what it is, you might enjoy it. I got through it just fine. 354, Ghost Team. John Heder, who you may remember as Napoleon Dynamite, and Justin Long from the original Jeepers Creepers. This movie's kind of a spoof on ghost paranormal investigations. And it was fun to see the cast of the original Ghost Hunters show kind of play a spoof on themselves. But John Heder is trying to get a paranormal team together at the last minute because he just found out about this spooky barn in the middle of nowhere. So he puts this ragtag group of guys together, and gals, to go investigate it. And of course, the hijinks begin. But it turned out to be really fun, and I enjoyed it. Maybe they'll do a sequel. I don't know. But, yep. That's it for this one. I gotta go back and try to watch another 2 or 3 today before I go to bed. So, catch you later, Gator.